Peace and blessings, love and light. This is Kim Martin Raymond, host of the How Now podcast, where we talk about how to live in the now. Welcome to another episode of our show. And tonight is going to be an interesting topic because we're going to be talking about finance. We're going to be talking about novice investing. And that is the title of this evening's show, Novice Investing. You know, right now we're in tax season. We are having people who are getting their stimulus checks. I have not gotten mine, but I'm not going to feel some kind of way about it. Anyway, there are those who have gotten their stimulus checks or are anticipating receiving those, as well as their 2019 and 2020 returns. And some people are wanting to stretch that dollar a little further than, beyond 2 weeks or beyond a week, or, and putting it all into one pot, so to speak. A lot of people have been looking into investing and talking about what investing looks like and how do they even go about doing it. So we're going to talk about novice investing tonight with my very, very special guest who is near and dear to my heart. But as in our, how now way, I'm just going to go ahead and have my guest introduce herself in the way that she wants to be received. All right.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you very much for having me tonight. It is a blessing to be here. So a little intimidating because when you're a novice, you get a little bit thrown off because you don't have a huge level of something to start off with that people can say, well, okay, I want to, hear information from this person. But I'm here. I'm going to go over what I've done, and I think that it will help even anyone get ready to stick their big toe into that water and test it. I am Equauler Brown. I am currently employed with the Internal Revenue Service. I've worked for the service for about almost 14 years now. And so I'm not coming from the standpoint of where I work. I'm coming from the standpoint of being a regular person, just like everyone on this podcast, listening to this podcast. And so, it's funny, Kim and I talk all the time about what I know about finance, and I have a plethora of information. It's a plethora of tax law that I have to be familiar with, and I am familiar with it. And then there are things that I'm really great with in finance, and there are things that I'm not so great with in finance. And with that regard, I'm not so great in investing. Only typically just donated to my 401k. And so, I'm just like, okay, well, as long as that's growing, I don't need to worry about anything. However, as we all know, 2020 put a daunting outlook on what we need to be doing with our finances and how, your stream of income that you had that's so solid that you think is solid may be poof, gone away instantaneously from you. And you have no control over that. So with that, what I did in the beginning is I sat at home with nothing to do like most people because we were in the house. We were on our computers working, but with very little work to do. And so that opened up a space for me to do a little bit more research online, talk with a few more friends. And so what we came up with is that we were looking at how stocks like Zoom, a platform that many of us are using now with the change of our work environments from in the office to at home. I watched that stock go in March 2020 from $124 to, I think the price right now is $400 a share.
Wow.
And it went up from March 2020, from the beginning of March to the beginning of March at 124, and it went up to like $300-$400 a share by the end of April.
Wow.
And I said, if I had just taken, I had like $500 at the time, and I put it in the stock market because I wanted to start playing at that time. That I would have made my money back and then some, and I could have pulled that residual out and invested it in something else. But because I didn't know what I was doing, I got stuck, and I was a little bit afraid, and I don't want to be afraid with this process. There are things that I do wrong every day. I watch my money go up and I watch my money go down. But you have to come to the resolve that it's only money. And when you come to that resolve that it's only money, I think that helps you get that fear factor out there. Because without making that risk or taking that risk, you will always operate from a space of fear. And we, as people of color, indigenous people of color, we cannot continue to operate from that stance, because what we have to understand is that soon there's going to be the super rich, wealthy category, and there's going to be individuals that will be in the poor category. There will be no longer a middle class.
Yeah.
Right now, the stock market and other inventions are allowing people to be instantaneous millionaires. Okay, instantaneous. And so, with that process, you have to learn how to navigate in this space, and be able to change with the things that are thrown at you. And if you're not, and you're operating from the same stance that you were before the pandemic, you're going to get left behind, and it's not going to be anything that you're going to be too happy with at that time. If you're not taking measures and steps now to start teaching yourself a few things, I don't know if you'll become independently wealthy. That requires hard work and diligence. It requires you going in intention plus action equal will. So when you have that intention and you take the action, it's going to create that will for you to push through and keep going, persevering through that space. So you want to learn more about the actions that you're taking, and as you move forward in this process of navigating your toe in, sliding that whole foot in, then
Mhm.
eventually you're up to your knee with one leg, right? And so just one step at a time. That's all I want to encourage, because if you don't start,
Right.
you're gonna get stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
And I
that's
was
just,
gonna say,
that's just basically it.
yeah, I was gonna jump in and say, like you said, it's such a fearful space, like you said, for people because, you know, a lot of people didn't have savings in the beginning, and then when the pandemic hit, whatever little savings they had, if it was due to a phasing out of their position, or some people had to go on unemployment and they were not making the funds that they were making, they had to dip into the residual funds that they may have had, and so it put them in a space of even panic, because then we
Mhm.
say, all right, well, I didn't have a whole lot already, now I have less than I have, and now I'm afraid, and now when I get the stimulus check, I have to pay everything that I was running behind on, and not realizing, like you said, that sometimes, if you put that money in, then it can double, and you can use that, and you could begin to have some means of income
Right,
coming in, and not just saying, well, I have to spend this, and I'm guilty of that myself. I immediately want to say, okay, I'm getting this,
right,
I need to go and pay these things off, and then I don't have any extra, I just want to pay these things off, not realizing that investing in that can put you in a space to have that and the extra. So I appreciate you bringing that up and talking about the
right.
fact that we don't know what we don't know. You said 14 years with the IRS, and we've been friends for many, many years, and you've always done well with your finances. But just like you said, we have, both of us have degrees, master's degrees in business and everything, and that doesn't mean anything, because at the end of the day,
Right.
you don't know it all. So I appreciate that.
And with me working here, I work with people who have come from all streams of income. And just because they have a lot of it doesn't mean that they manage it well. And so that's the one thing that I have to always remind myself of, as I step out in these spaces, and remember, okay, well, they started out somewhere, they got to have extravagant amounts of income. Again, they're misusing their income, they're not making it work best for them. So I can't focus on those things. I just have to focus on what is pulling me, towards what I need to learn to improve myself, right? And so, in doing so, I am so grateful that you asked me to come here and discuss this topic today, because it's an important one.
Yeah.
I just think about last year when I got my stimulus payment. I had a regular paycheck coming in, but I hoarded that money, hoarded it, right? Even though I was putting a little bit in
Right.
the stock market in one platform. I've been doing it through a little quick platform. It's called ETFs. And those are, oh, I'm going to pull that up, and see that it escapes me. See that
Mhm.
fast
All right.
when you say these things, but it allows you to buy portions of stocks. Okay. So like they have companies like Stash, and if you can do it even on Robinhood and Acorns, where you can buy small pieces, bits and pieces of a stock. You don't have to fully purchase that stock. You can buy it in the increments in which you need to. They'll let you do $5, $10. So you just have to go out there and do the research. And I'll talk about that a little bit more as well. What I did also do last year is take that extra, because we were at home,
Right.
not spending our money. I was saving like $1,200 plus a month. And if once you start home those months, you're like, oh my God, this is entertainment and meals, right?
Right.
So when you start cooking at home and you're at home and you're not going anywhere, you're like, this is a significant amount of money that I'm saving.
Yes.
So I increased the amount of money that I was putting in my 401k and watched that grow to a goal that I wanted it to grow in last year. And at that time, I said, if I keep going like this, this is the first time that I thought that I could be a millionaire on my own regard, not having a special idea, just doing my due diligence and focusing and placing my money in these spaces. And as long as I'm getting a 12% return or greater on that money, on my 401k,
Oh, you froze a
and
little
I can
bit.
I can move towards that. You'll hear about. I froze a little bit. Oh, I'm
Yes.
sorry. I apologize about my internet.
No, that's perfectly fine.
I'm
We
trying
missed
not to
just that
move.
last little
Do
statement.
you see me now? Am I moving now?
No, you're moving fine now. It was your voice that got a little
Okay,
right
good.
there towards the end. You were talking about, you said that you had put your money into you were talking about 12%, as long as you were seeing a 12% return.
Oh, was a 12% return on the money that I invested.
Mhm.
So you'll see. So like last year, I put in $9,000 into my TSP, and I profited like 25,000 off of that, right? And then I had a friend that put in 20,000, and she gained 60,000, right? So if you're doing it appropriately, you'll see those gains, and it requires diligence. You have to watch the market. You have to pay attention to what's going on. What I also saw is that even though all of these people were receiving unemployment, the stock market was going down, but people were making so much money still in the stock market, although all of these businesses were closing. And I was like, well, okay, I need to focus on this, right?
Right.
I need to focus. So a good friend of mine who was very diligent in her work that she does, she's just every week or every couple of days, she'll shoot me a text. Did you read this article? Did you do this task? Okay. I'm very fortunate to have someone that does that for me.
Right.
We won't have that as people, right? So it requires us to do it ourselves. But this has also been a process that she and I have been on for several years. She's more diligent than I am. So I told myself from 2021 coming into, 2020 coming into 2021, I made that my goal to be diligent. And what I make myself do is educate myself. So
Right.
I start my education by learning stock terms, using Investopedia and Google. There's things that I don't understand, I have Yahoo Finance, CNBC. You can watch that. They have an app you can load to your phone if you don't have cable, and you can live stream things. Market Watch. Crypto is an app that I use to learn about some crypto things, but I typically just read my articles in the apps that I have. I also made a watch list. So what's a watch list? You don't know what to invest in. You're overwhelmed. There's so many things out there in that stock market. So you'll hear people say things such as invest in things that you have in your house. I have, as you can see, my AirPods on, my iPhone, my MacBook. Okay. You can invest in Apple. You can invest in Zoom. We just talked about, because most people are using that for work, for these digital spaces. And then if you don't want to do that, think about what I hadn't thought about is like people invest in do the Monopoly board. Where was all of the money, right? In real estate, the railroads, and
Right.
energy and things of that nature. So those are other industries that we use energy in our homes, right? So I invested in the energy company that's in my state. I invested in, and so right now with everything going to the electric vehicles, with this administration that we have in now, the Biden and Harris administration, electric vehicles, they're going to be creating these stations all over the United States. And some of these stocks are penny stocks right now. It's overwhelming the industries that are involved in this, but you need to choose, do research, take about 3 weeks to a month, and just put some companies on a list. Have no more than 30 companies in different industries, but group your industries together, right? So you can see what's going on. And when you look at those industries, see what the competition is doing for those companies, maybe, and just start reading articles about it and say, this is where I want to put a few $100 or $100 or $5, and watch how it works. If you get paid every week, $5 a week. Did you have a question?
No, I was saying, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Just
Okay.
making sure that,
Yeah.
it can start small. Just like you're saying.
Start small, right? And then with this year's stimulus payments of the $1,400 a person, you hear so many people saying invested. Another thing that I missed out on is, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later, is cryptocurrency. Ethereum is the competition to Bitcoin. In January, that was $300 a share. It is now $2,000 a share. Yeah. If I'd have put $300 in that, I'd have made a $1,700 return on that.
Right.
Okay, just one share, one Ethereum coin, right? So we'll get into that a little bit later. So we got to start thinking that it's $300 is nuts. It's only money, and if it's going to grow exponentially like that, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, almost 6 times what I put into it that it grew, right?
Right.
No, 6 times, almost 7. Let's see. I work for the IRS and see the numbers still. They do what they do. They come and they go. That's what a calculator and Excel are for.
That's
you
right.
Need Excel. It helps you.
Everybody is not a mathematician. You're right.
And so I also follow people on YouTube and some podcasts. I follow a young man. I try to follow people that look like me, that are making millions of dollars in this market, because that's what I relate to. That may work for everyone, but there's other people that I follow that don't look like me. If the information is good, and these people are investing a certain types of money and they've had a career in finance, I follow them. I like Stockmo. He doesn't look like me. He was a former finance person, and he is retired and a professor at a college. And I follow Chris Sane. I follow Larry Jones. And there's another young lady. I want to see women. There's Terry Ewood. I don't want to tear up her last name. Ijoma. It's Trade and Travel. Trade and Travel is the name of her YouTube channel. And they give you such solid advice on these platforms. I think it's essential for you to go, and that's another way that you do your education. So for me, if I watch a clip on Instagram or on YouTube, I have to go find the clip on investing that is just as long and watch that. So if I'm going to watch trash, I have to have education as well. That is what I've been doing in 2021.
Right.
Okay.
And that's awesome.
So I start my day. Go ahead.
I was going to say, what's good is that there are different ways in which you can do it. Everybody is not an article reader or a researcher in that regard. Right. So if you are a person who, would rather watch it and hear somebody talk to you about it, as opposed to reading it, or finding, slightly shorter articles that give you just the meat of it. But I love that you say, start with the terminology, because if that person is talking about it, make sure that you have a pen and paper handy so that you're writing down those terms that they may use, or acronyms. People are quickly like, well, the AFC and the RLWL, and you're like, what? Huh? So make sure that you have a pencil and paper handy so that you can write those things down and be able to, go back and at least research that. So at least what the terms are that people are talking about. So I love that you bring that point up as well. That is necessary for you to, have different avenues of being able to do it, and spending just as much time as you spend watching 2 hours of TikTok. You can spend 2 hours investing, and then that way, your TikTok could be about throwing cash in the air. So, you know what I'm saying?
Right. Absolutely.
It's important to do that.
Right. And so it's like, if I want to gain this knowledge, what do I have to give up? I'm giving up something that's benefiting me in no way, form, or fashion, right?
Right.
But we all need our outlets, okay? So, um, and I'm trying not to be consumed, but in certain instances, if you're trying to build cash in a certain way, depending on your age,
Right.
you may have to become consumed and put an hour to or 2 to 3 a day into things, depending on what time you're trying to grow and fast you're trying to grow it, to be quite honest.
Nice.
Um, then there's some trading platforms, okay? Um, you want to be able to use like TD Ameritrade and Fidelity because they're the larger, or Charles Schwab and things of that nature. They have the apps for those abilities to trade. They have some other platforms too, E-Trade and things of that nature. And then there is the common apps that we hear where everybody is familiar with, Robinhood, because of the ease of that app, right? But there's competition for Robinhood now, a staunch competition, and that people are liking this other app that I use is called Webull. And the reason why people are not so happy with Robinhood now is because this company has been associated with doing some not so great stuff
Right.
when there was a gain in GameStop and AMC, the movie theater, and how they stopped people from, trading, allowing them to trade, to sell
Right.
those trades when that stock was falling because of his influence from his billionaire friends. So, and I'll say that because it's been said, that's on YouTube,
Right.
and allegedly is what I'll say.
Right.
Allegedly.
There
That's
you
the terminology that I'll use
go.
there.
Right.
And so allegedly, and so you can utilize those. There's Coinbase for cryptocurrency. I use another one that's a super easy. It pulls the money out of my account super quick. It's called Uphold, Uphold,
Uh-huh.
Uphold. To order some cryptocurrency exchanges in there that are not necessarily Bitcoin or Ethereum, but there's other things that are out there. And then there's one that I learned from watching Terry Ijoma, I think that's how you say her last name, is Trade Station. That allows you to do crypto and your regular trades all in one app. So
Right.
I'm going to open an account with them. And I think I'm going to open an IRA with them so I can trade in there because it allows that functionality in one app, which I have to read. I'm doing my research on that, everyone. I haven't read everything, but I'm doing my research on that.
Right. Okay. Can I
And
stop
then
you just for a quick second also?
you sure
Because
can.
because I know
Yeah.
it's a lot of different platforms and things. And so I know,
Yeah.
we talked about this being for the novice investor. And I know that there may be some who are like, that still sounds like a lot, but it's definitely about education. So you have to be able to, start at a broad base. Uh, so when you first started doing the investing, or you first started doing it,
Mhm.
what did you start? What was the one thing that you started with? I mean, I know they have cryptocurrency, they've got investing.
Okay.
What did you do first, if you remember? I know it may have been some time ago.
I use I started in Stash because that's with the ETFs where you can buy the small pieces, $5
Gotcha.
at the minimum that you can trade with. I started that about 2.5 years ago.
Okay.
And then I was having it pull money out, and then I just started picking different industries. So instead of like picking necessarily a specific stock that I use, maybe it's an industry, it's an ETF for several things that I use: Apple, Google, um, Netflix. Like they have those things grouped like that, right?
Oh, nice.
But
Okay.
you won't know that because you're a novice. You don't know what you're looking at.
Right.
And that's why it requires you to go in and read a little bit. That's not going to be in a video. It could be because
Right.
some of these people do read like articles to you. And I'll do that sometimes as well. But just the basics, just to get a feel for how to like move the money, put it into an account and watch it go up and go down, and how they were moving it and what is impacting it in the market. I started with Stash, but I'm going to transfer some of that money into my TD Ameritrade account,
Okay.
and that's only because that account's doing pretty well. And so, but that's after 2.5 years of just playing, not really
Right.
researching too much. The most research that I've done has been in 2021, end of 2020, coming into 2021, because I said, because I am a federal employee, I had to have a real conversation with myself to say, with these stimulus payments, I know what happens in economics and government, right?
Right.
From, let's go all the way back to school, grade school, right? Let's think about this. When countries start creating so much money and
Mhm.
giving it out, without a way to back that, those countries' economies, they fall.
Mhm.
And so that is a history that is fact based. It's not allegedly.
Right.
Um, and that's all I know to say about that. I said, well, I have to figure out what I'm gonna do with what I have, the talents and gifts that I have. And if anything drastic happens to this country in the next 5 to 10 years for
Right.
my plan of life, what is my alternative? So I'm giving myself definitely enough time to create a strategy, to create some streams of income to think about, and to be working on some other avenues of generating that.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
This
I
is
can
going to be
imagine, because
required.
like you
There's
said,
no
yeah.
ifs, ands, or buts about it unless I meet my billionaire husband.
I'm coming to the wedding regardless.
Go ahead.
But yeah, I
That's
mean,
right. Unless I meet my billionaire husband, and I'm not knocking him out.
that's it.
So,
Uh,
go ahead.
no, I'm sorry. No, I can't tell whether you're freezing sometimes. I'm sorry, but yeah, I think it's once you're able to go and start that little bit of investing. I like that you say to start small and to play with it a little bit, because the biggest thing, like you said, it's not for the faint of heart. You're going to see things rise and fall, and you
Yes.
know, I think people's first notion or first thought is, oh my goodness, I'm about to lose all my money, so I'm pulling everything out, and you just have to learn to ride the wave a little bit, and that can be nerve-wracking. So I like that, starting small, because I'll be in that group of people that start small, because yeah, my nerves would be shot as soon as I saw the money go down. I'd be like, oh no, 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 I'm gonna pull it out, I'm gonna pull out. And I know a lot of people do that.
And don't do that, because that's when you lose too. When it's red, you don't sell when it's red. Okay, so if you don't hear any disclaimer from me, you don't sell
Mhm.
when it's red. You sell on green days. You sell on
All
green days.
right.
And what's not on my list, and I'm glad you brought this up, Kim, is that the volatility of the market. Okay,
Mhm.
in 2021, it's just April, we've seen two corrections of the market so far.
Oh wow.
Two, where one day I can go into my app, my Robinhood app, and I'll have over $2,500. Next day I go in there, it's like 1,500. That's $1,000 gone, like
Right.
overnight when I wake up and I blink, right?
Right.
So I said to myself, self, it's only money. You
Right.
have been very well taken care of, and it will come back. What you have to understand about the market is, and you'll follow some of these people that show you where they lose 10,000, $5,000 in one day, and it may be over several days that happens, or it may be in one day. But what you also see is that after the market corrects itself, depending on the plays that you have yourself in, and the plays mean which stocks that you have yourself in, whether they're long term or short term investments for you, you will see how those things work for you. Some things that did not have any issues with the market correction were things like banks, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, and the airlines. And all of this volatility that we've experienced, those stocks rose. Walgreens, because of the COVID vaccine, stock rose, right?
Right.
So those are just a couple of some things. Those are examples of a few things that I don't have a lot of money in them, but I have a little bit of money in them, right? Because I'm
Right.
still learning, and I can't take everything that I'm investing and putting it in one industry. So I have to
Right.
wait, get paid, see what has to be paid, invest a certain amount, move, and then the next 2 weeks I get paid, put it in another industry, because you know what I'm saying. I
Right.
am not independently wealthy yet, but I plan on being independently
Yeah.
wealthy, right? So I have to take my time, and I have to do it with a little bit of conviction and strategy to make sure that those funds are being applied appropriately, so that I can have the best outcome for me and my
Yeah.
future goals for
Yeah.
myself.
But I like that you say, even, that when you get your paycheck, you pay your bills. We're not telling you not to pay your bills. We want you
Mm-hmm.
to pay
Mm-hmm.
your bills, and that means that if there's just a little bit, if there's that little extra bit that you would
Right.
use for lunch, or that you would use
Right.
gas or things like that, and you're working from
Right.
home, take that little
Right.
bit. And then
Yep.
as that grows, then you can take what, from that growth, and not from, constantly pulling from the income
Right.
that you have coming in. Start using that income that you're generating to invest. Is
Right.
that right?
That is correct
Oh,
because I invest a significant portion of my income into my 401k at work. And then residual income before, when I was doing Stash a couple years ago, just $50 a paycheck is what I was doing, right?
mhm.
And I was just playing around. And then I just did that for like a few months and then I stopped it. And then I will go in there every once in a while and just withdraw 300 or 200 down for a specific industry that I may have been interested in at the time. Again, still playing, not really focused, not really educating myself, just thinking, oh, well, it'll get done, right? Not taking responsibility and control of my financial future because
Right,
that's what it's really about.
right,
Okay.
right,
And so now on top of the amount that I invest for my 401k monthly at work, I also invest outside of that a minimum of like $500 a month when I can, if I don't have other things that are pulling on that income,
right,
that residual income that I have, because I'm not driving to the office like you said. I eat at home all of my meals through the week, Monday through Friday.
right,
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner is at the house, right? So we may eat out on the weekends significantly, a lot more than we did before because restaurants are open now.
right,
But other than that, yeah. And I just set up the platform because I have to give up something too, right? I, I, I can't say that I want these things without giving up something.
right,
And for me, if I'm giving up a little bit now
right,
and it's going to yield me something exponential in the future where I don't have to worry about anything. I can travel back and forth around this world as I choose to and live where I want to in this world. And I can live comfortably in places and not have to worry about anything and be able to leave a significant amount of wealth for my children when I pass away. That's not related to health, insurance or burial insurance or life insurance rather.
right,
So those are the things that I think about because that's the legacy that I want to leave for my family. And we have to have these conversations because sometimes in certain families, we just don't talk about legacy and what
right,
that means and what that looks like. And
right,
we have to in order for it to be uh, in order for it to transcend through the generations,
right.
we have to start talking about that. It is a must. It is required. I don't know what else to say other than that. I think,
Right. Well, I mean, it's about educating
uh,
not only ourselves, but make sure that we're educating our children who are coming behind us.
correct.
Because,
Right.
people are like, I'm not getting any younger. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
so yes, the push for me to invest is a little more, wanting to be a little bit more aggressive because I'm getting older. But, even for our young people, and for our and for our young adults, and even for the
Yep.
little ones, teaching them how to save, teaching them how to invest, because think about how exponentially it's going to go and quicker for them because they're younger.
Right.
I got a couple of more rotations around the sun, God willing, but just like you said, if we can pass on that knowledge, not just to ourselves, but also pass it on for the generations that are to come behind us, then just like you said, you're setting the legacy in motion. So I love that you mentioned that.
Right. Yeah.
Mhm.
And another thing that I wanted to touch on that you spoke about was, you know, uh, people put money into the stock market and they just leave it there. They don't do their continued education. They don't do their continued due diligence,
Mhm.
and that's required as well. I was speaking to a friend when I was visiting Atlanta last when we met up a couple weeks ago,
Mhm.
and that person was like, "I'm afraid of the stock market." Both of my parents were impacted. 2008, Dad lost over $1 million in the stock market, and now in 2021, just in 2021, mom lost a significant amount of her residual income
Wow.
in the stock market in those corrections that I mentioned previously. And they're brown people. So it hurts my heart, right?
Right.
Because that's one family. And the person that's my generation is makes significant money through real estate, right?
Mm-hmm.
But not enough that they can make it exponentially in the stock market,
Right.
right? And so that person is deathly afraid to invest because two people, his parents,
Right. That makes
were
sense.
impacted by the stock market, right? So that is a reality.
Mm-hmm.
That is a reality. But I don't want people to be afraid because just like when the pandemic came, people lost everything with regard to their one stream of income. It can happen and have many faces. And I want people to think about that. That if you do start out with something and it is growing great for you do have to think about having that still managed appropriately, even though those funds are there, because anything can happen.
Right.
And sometimes with people that are seniors, they have these financial advisors that may not look like them, that they're just taking their cut of whatever they're getting each month, and they're not looking out for our elders' best interests.
Right.
And so we have to continue to educate them as well, and create avenues to protect them. So
Right.
they have their retirement. They need it,
Right.
you know?
Right. Just like you said,
So
it's all
I
about
wanted to touch on that
education.
because that's important.
It is.
Yes, it is
It is. Just
definitely
like
about
you said, it's all
education.
about
So it requires
education.
a lot of that.
Yeah, for we talk about for the youth, but yeah, just like you said, for the elderly as well, and making sure that
Mhm.
as things are changing, so I think self education is good also, but it's also good, like you said, to have somebody who they can tap into. Now,
Yep.
now, what are your thoughts possibly on like having somebody who can, who's a mentor or somebody who kind of knows a little bit about the stock market more than you're comfortable with, or if you have questions.
Um, for myself is what you
No,
mean,
yeah,
or for
or for
somebody that I
any.
would recommend.
Right, or like if somebody is they're doing their research, they're doing it, but they still may have a few more
Okay.
questions. Do you see what I'm saying? Is it would you recommend that they
Um,
try to seek someone who has a little bit
yeah,
more knowledge?
a couple of platforms that I do follow. One platform is Earn Your Leisure. They have a podcast, and you can follow them on YouTube, and they're on Instagram. Those gentlemen, they're in a bunch of things, and what they started a podcast, and it took off immediately. They took it. I think it was 2019 that they started their podcast. 2019, early 2020, and they just brought on people that were doing great, just African Americans that are in all of these different industries that are just instantaneous millionaires, right? But they have so many varied topics. And they also have a university that you can go to and take classes. And they have this guy that comes on I think, Monday nights. And he talks about investing. There's another guy that talks about cryptocurrency on Instagram, Tall Guy Tycoon on Instagram. I'm learning some stuff from him. And let's see, who else do I look at for a podcast on? I've mentioned, like I said, Chris Sane.
Right.
I mentioned Stockmo. I mentioned Larry Jones and Terry Ejoma.
Right.
Those individuals I've been following, and with you just have to listen to those videos, and you can send them questions on those platforms,
That
and
was
they do
my yeah.
respond.
That
And
was my
so
question. Uh-huh.
yeah, so in doing your research, don't be afraid to reach out to these individuals. If you have just a general question, they know who's a novice and who's not, and it's up to you to decide if you want to go onto their platforms and exercise, maybe like taking a class with them or
Mhm.
something like that to educate yourself. That's up to you. I'm not saying go do that. I think that with enough research on your own, if you
Mhm.
sit there and take 10 minutes in the morning, 10, 15 minutes in the morning, 10 to 15 minutes before you go to bed. You do that 5 days a week. You'll
Right.
be surprised what you'll learn in that time frame, because
Right.
that's what I've done. And,
Right.
and and that's the only reason why I'm saying to do that. I have learned so much in that time frame. But then there's other days when I'm sitting here on a Saturday, and I might see an article that's popped up from something, and I'll take the time and I'll read it because it's something that I need to put into my arsenal for my learning. Okay.
Right.
Um,
But I mean, I think
and
it's
you know,
important. I'm sorry.
mhm.
I was gonna say, I think it's
Go ahead.
important that you you do have the knowledge, because then also, even if you have somebody who you want to ask a question to, you have to know what to ask. And if you don't quite
Right.
know the terminology, or you don't
Right.
quite know, you know, how, you may ask things simply, but you want to speak, of course, from a space of some type of intellect or some type of knowledge behind it. Say, I don't know all of the terms, but I've heard this. Can you, talk about this a little bit more? Or, just
Right.
you don't know what to ask until you dip your foot, like you said, dip your toe in. And then if you start seeing things moving, then you can say, okay, this is the question I need to ask, because this is the
Right.
part that I don't understand. So you don't know it, you won't know it until you
Right.
try it, or until you do it, or until you look. So, I just wanted to make sure that we put that caveat out there, to make sure that, we definitely want to ask we want to ask questions. We want to have people who we can go and ask the questions to, but we want to know what those questions are to ask. So it's important that we do that.
And if you don't get a response from a certain person, or you feel like what you've asked with the knowledge that you have does not still satisfy the thing that you're needing to get resolved, don't give up. I'm relentless when it comes to that, and you know that
Yes,
about
she
me.
is. Yes, she
If
is.
I don't get the response that I need that satisfies my curiosity, I'll just keep asking, because eventually somebody's going to help me.
Right.
And so with this, there's so much information out there that's floating around. It's intimidating, and I don't want you to be intimidated by that information. Um, because if I don't know it, I'll just go research it. And if you ask me, I'll research it and I'll respond to you as best as I can, or I'll say, hey, check out this podcast, or check out this individual on this date. They were talking about this briefly, and hopefully that helps. If it doesn't, maybe we can, talk about it. Again, I'm no expert, but that doesn't mean anything. You know how you become an expert? By talking to people,
That's it.
doing,
That's it.
answering questions, because it increases your knowledge. And
Right.
on those days where you go from sticking your toe in to sticking up to your knee in, and
Right.
you want to yank it out, it's okay. Just don't do it on a red day, as I stated.
Right.
And if you do yank it out, calm your nerves, and then do some more research and stick it
Right.
back in there, maybe in another industry.
Right.
Um, and that's all you can do. Okay, that's
That's
all
it.
you can really do with regard to that.
Right. And I was gonna say, I think it's also
Um,
good. We talk about speaking to
the
people,
last, but
even,
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, even investment clubs too. People who, if you have people in your local
Yeah,
area who are investing too, that's also another good way to share the information that they're learning from other
yeah,
people too. Being able to see who else is out there doing something similar. So that way, when you're fearful, somebody else may be experiencing the same thing. And then you're thinking you're by yourself. You're the only one that's
yeah,
experiencing
yeah,
that. We know that from all types of support groups, because you think you're the only
yeah.
person that's ever experiencing that. And the other person like, well, I didn't know anything about that either. Well, what did you do, man? Or what you do, girl? And we're able to learn from each other
Right,
too. So that's important as well.
right. And if you don't have it in your area, create it. And again, that's how you
Love
become
that.
the expert, because people are
There
going to
you
be
go.
coming to you, pulling for knowledge. And what you have to always tell people is that we can do this together. I can't do it for you, because some people want you to do things for them. And what my friend does to me is she sends me the information and she gives me a deadline to read it by. And then she'll ask me questions.
Mhm.
And I think that is something that is essential. And if I tell her that I'm overwhelmed in my work week with my volunteer activities, she'll grant me some grace and allow me another date and time. But we come back to it and we have an intense conversation about it,
Right.
until I gain understanding. And she's been so patient with me to allow me that room, because everybody learns at their own pace. I'm a smart cookie, but I don't know everything. And sometimes I need things to be repeated to me over and over and over again, and that's just the reality of it. And
Right.
there's nothing wrong with that. There's
That's
nothing wrong
great.
with
That's
that.
accountability. Yeah.
Correct. And we have to, and if we love our neighbors, we have to hold them accountable.
That's right.
That's a part of loving someone, right?
Right.
That's a part of loving someone.
Right.
Um, I wanted to just talk about the hot topic, and that's cryptocurrency. I mentioned those
Yes.
couple of platforms previously, and there's other aspects of cryptocurrency, but everybody has heard about Bitcoin. That's trading at a significant amount. Let me pull it up for you to tell you what it's trading at as we speak.
Okay.
Let me go on my platform. I'm going into my Robinhood app right now. Robinhood is very easy. It's got a good functionality. I just don't like maybe some of the logistics of some things that have occurred. But I can't control that right now. But we'll make it work, right?
Right.
If it pulls the money out of my account when I need it to, and I can trade pretty much as soon as I pull it out. Okay, so Bitcoin is trading at $58,102.16 per coin. 58,000. I have a friend who has a relative that is a millionaire off of Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm. It
Okay,
came out a
in
long
Atlanta.
time ago, and a lot of people were like,
Yeah.
And so that's
No,
another
it's
thing too. Sometimes follow your intuition. I love my husband to death, and he always says, "Oh my goodness, I was going to invest in that, and then I was just like, no, I'm just going to turn in anything." And he
right.
knows people who have become millionaires off of it. So follow your instinct, like you
Millionaires,
said, stay the
right.
course. And that's why you talk about variety of things, and so that way, do it
Mm-hmm.
in something that may not look, things are trending. Sometimes, that's where that reading comes in at as well, you know?
Right. And so with what you're saying about your husband, it's the volatility. Bitcoin, I was going to invest in Bitcoin when it was down, when it was like in the 2000 or $3,000 range, right? But the volatility of it, that's the problem with Bitcoin. It has gone up and gone down and gone up and gone. We've just not heard great things. You heard people being instantaneous, but if you didn't pull out at the right time, when it goes all the way down and it crashes, you're just like, I can't pull it out on this red day, right?
Right, right,
Right
right,
back up, right? Because what you don't do is lose your position. You might lose a little bit of money right now, and you're screaming deeply inside, and your head's gonna explode and pop the top of your skull's gonna catch on fire, right? Is what you're feeling inside with all your angst in your gut, right?
right.
But that's a real feeling. At that same token, you just have to understand what you're investing in, and like we've talked about, believe in it, because what we have to understand is that cryptocurrency and the platforms that will be utilized for cryptocurrency, or all these other industries that are coming in, like banking and things of that nature,
Right.
5 to 10 years, we will not have money. We will be
Right.
using cryptocurrency. That is not allegedly. That is a fact.
That's right. That's right.
So, in some of these stocks and some of these platforms, they're still less than $1. Some of them. So you
Right.
need to get in now and buy
Right.
significant amounts of them, and it will pay off in the future. In 5 years, you'll be like, man, that Equauler Brown chick, she said
That's
to
right.
do this, and she
That's
said
right.
she didn't know what she was doing. But I want to check in on her 5 years from now. And is she a multimillionaire? Yes, she will be.
All right.
And
Hey,
so,
claim it.
okay, yes, I will be.
But I
Yes,
love
I
that.
am.
Right. I love that you said that. It's about position. Don't lose your
Yes.
position.
Position. Yep,
That is
yep.
key.
And it's about that, right? And
Right.
people don't understand what cryptocurrency is. It's a commodity, right? Like gold or silver,
Right.
right? That's how they categorize it. Okay. And then the next thing is my employer and taxation. So we get information on a 1099, basically on that. They've changed the 1040 about 1, 2, 3 times each year. It's changed where they put the cryptocurrency, because we see so many people with all of these gains in the crypto industry. And so if you are, I'm going to read something, and I don't want to overwhelm people. Okay. I just want to read it a little bit because it is important. So they talk about Bitcoin and how it, for like tax planning, if you're merely holding Bitcoin or another cryptocurrency, you may want to like put it like in a IRA or a 401k, okay, or a qualified retirement plan, okay, so that you're not taxed on it in that perspective.
Right.
But if you are what the difference with Bitcoin is that it's taxed differently. If you sell Bitcoin, you get taxed on it. If you buy with Bitcoin, you get taxed on it.
Wow.
That's basically what it is. And so you can pull up notice from the IRS. It's IRS notice 2014-21, and it goes over the general tax principles as they apply to transactions using virtual currency. And it has some frequently asked questions. It goes over the background and those things. And so I want people to read that. It's a few pages, but guess what? You can find that at www.irs.gov. And then you should be able to type in virtual currency in the search box or IRS notice 2014-21 to read over those few questions about it. And it goes over those topics for you. Okay. So it is essential that we just do our due diligence. I don't want you to spend a lot of money. The one platform that's going to be used at banks, I bought it at 30 cents. Is now, let's see what it is today. It was up 20% the other day. This will be the platform that banks will use. Ripple XRP is the name of it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I bought that at 29.30, and it is now $1. A dollar. I bought it at 30, so I've had a 70% gain on 70-cent gain on that.
Right.
70 cents. I need to go buy some. I said I was gonna buy it yesterday, and I didn't when it was less than $1.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
I have let that day slip away, and now it's over $1. So I'm gonna wait and see if it's gonna go down a little bit.
Right.
And I bought this other platform at 50 cents, and it's $1.25. So I've doubled what I've put in it.
Right.
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 So so it's small. So that's where you start out small. You can get you can get for a penny, 12 cents, like that. Those stocks, some of them turn out to be really, really great, right? And so you can buy a large amounts of those and watch it triple, double, quadruple.
Right.
And that's what you want to be able to do with this platform,
Right.
and pull that money out and put it into something else, not just cryptos. There's other stocks that you can do that with. You just have to watch them, because at the beginning of this year,
Mm-hmm.
with some of the people that I followed, some of the stocks I did not listen, and I watched those stocks go from $7 to $25.
Right.
If I had bought a specific number, you know how much money I could have pulled out of that and put into something else.
Right.
Right. I was still biting my nails, but I was doing my research. So
Right.
it's okay,
Right.
because
So
it's
you have to
always
do
going
it
to be
from a
something
place.
else that
Yeah.
comes along.
Yeah, you have to do it from a space of knowledge and wisdom set. That way,
Right.
like you said, you're not
Right.
operating in fear. We keep
Right.
talking about that it's about fear, then it's about education. And then once we educate and grow from it, then we can reach back and help others. That's what it's
Right.
all about. That is what it is
Yes.
all about. Now, I know we've been talking, about all of these wonderful ways to invest and how to get to a place where we can become independently wealthy. And that's so important in our society. And just like you said, as brown people, having that knowledge and being able to carry on that legacy. Now, I know we're getting close to the end of our show and the end of our time, but I am so grateful for all of the information that you've shared, and just letting people know those key things to do to make sure that keeping yourself in a position to be able to watch your finances grow. And you're going to see some ebbs and flows, and just to be able to ride the wave. Everything is about knowledge being power. Everything is about making sure that you're going and you're you know educating yourself, so the questions to ask, that you're tapping into resources around you. And I love that Quayla said that if you don't see those things in your area, learn enough so that you can be that resource in your area. That's about
Right.
reaching back and helping each other. So that is wonderful. Like I said, she shared so many wonderful nuggets with us, and I'm going to have her share one more with us, before we wrap things up. And as I do with all of my guests, I ask them, what are some things that you are doing to live in the now, in this season, in this time of continued pandemic and vaccinations and what have you? What are some things that you're doing to navigate in this space?
So in 2020, I started out with being stir crazy in the house. And
Yeah.
being that I live here in the mountains in Asheville, North Carolina, there are lots of beautiful trails that you can walk and things of that nature. So I started hiking. And then this year and today, I just got back from a bike ride. Mountain biking is my new adventure for 2021. Now, those bikes are super expensive. So I told myself, depending on how this year goes in the stock market, I can pull some residual income from that
Right.
and buy myself one of those several $1,000 bikes if I choose to.
There you go.
And that's the reward I'll give myself from that. Right now, I will use my old bike that was gifted to me, and I'll have new bike envy as I trek up those mountains and learn this space and get more comfortable mountain biking out there in those woods. And that has been very therapeutic for me because you know what getting on a bike does? Getting on a bike takes you all the way back to being a kid.
Yeah.
And you know what? We need that right now with all of the digital platforms that we're on always after working a full day in a digital space if
Right.
you're not going into the office such as myself managing people virtually. I need an outlet that is in Mother Earth, in
Yeah.
this beautiful sunshine and
Yeah.
space that God has created for us to live and breathe in. And so I take full advantage of that as much as I can because you just never know what may happen. So I
That's
want to enjoy my life to the fullest at this space and time where I can be free and COVID free in the woods, away from people, depending on the time of day and the or the day that I go out there. You know, you
Right.
got to know those challenges as well. But that's what I'm doing in the now is
I love
maintaining my health and trying to be stress free and just live in a beautiful place.
That's it. And I think that's beautiful because just like you said, it's not just investing your money, it's investing in yourself, in your
Yes.
physical body,
Hmm.
so that way you can enjoy all the what is the use of having, becoming independently wealthy and you're laid up somewhere because you can't move because your body's all
Yeah.
jacked up. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? So
Right.
definitely,
Absolutely. You're
definitely
right.
investing in your body, investing in your health is going to put you in a position to be able to enjoy all of the, all of the residual funds and all of the, things that you'll gain from being independently wealthy. We want to be able to get to
Yeah.
that space. So I love that you are doing that. You know that you are my sister. I love you more than sliced bread. I love you more than cooked food. And she knows this about Coila and I go back many, many years. And I love that you've taken time
Many moons.
and to share, your wisdom and your knowledge, and that you're reaching back, and that you're letting people see that it's not just just because you work in finance, just because you work for the IRS, that you know all of the ins and outs. It's a journey that we're
Right.
on, and on ourselves. And so, I'm definitely going to make sure that I have you come back and talk to us again,
Yeah.
because eventually you'll go from novice to intermediate to professional, and we want to be right there
Definitely.
with you along the way to see, what the process was. That's what I love about this show. I can have you come back as many times as I want to, because what does Tabitha Brown say? 'Cause that's her business.
That's your
So
business.
that's her
That's
business.
right.
And so that's what we want to be able to do. We want to be able to have you come back and talk about those things that you've learned, and help us as we continue to navigate in this space. And that will do it for how we live in the now. But before we go, is there a way that people can contact you if they have a
Yes,
question?
you can. Yes, you can contact me via email. That is Brown, the letter E, the letter Q, the number zero, the number seven at yahoo.com. Again, that's Brown EQ07 at yahoo.com.
All right, all right,
Send
and
me a
that's what.
question. If I if I know the answer, I'll answer it. If not, I'll say I'll get back to you, or I'll send you a place where you can get that information, or we can schedule a meeting. You just never know what might happen. I look forward to talking to you. Thank you so much, Kim, for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that will do it for this edition of How Now, where we talk about how to live in the now. And until I see you all the next time, I say peace.